Another way that the Green Party differs from other parties is that we have a long-term vision. The Green Party is the only party that seems to understand that we must confront several concurrent and increasingly dangerous conditions that will determine our future. We're facing a perfect storm of issues, including climate change, peak oil, or the end of the cheap available oil, and then there's the concept of peak everything else. Our grain stocks are going down, our water is diminishing, our fisheries are at risk, our minerals are, there's less mineral available for us. We also have social inequity and poverty, and the breakdown of our communities and community structures. We've created an efficient economy that is based on a false premise, and one that's destroying the very life support systems of the planet. The premise that we can grow indefinitely, and that we can do so by using up our non-renewable resources through consumption, is untrue. 60 to 70% of our current economy depends on you and me buying stuff, continuously. That means that we end up with stuff that breaks quickly and is thrown away. And doing so depletes resources and creates waste and pollution. More than 90% of what we consume ends up in our waste stream within 6 months of purchase. Not purchasing what we don't need and purchasing durable goods that last would save people and businesses a lot of money. But the possibility of that change sends governments into panic. Our trade agreements are designed to force consumption, even though by doing so they lessen our ability to respond to these combined threats. And they send jobs elsewhere, and they lead to business failure. The Green Party proposes a no-growth alternative called a steady-state economy. We think our future lies in recreating regional, self-sufficient economies where our activities are based on interdependencies, a kind of I'll scratch your back if you'll scratch mine mentality. The economic structure would mean adding value to our resources and using those resources within a region, exchanging goods and services locally, generating and using energy locally. It would also mean lots of new jobs and lots of new small businesses. It would see a resurgence of traditional jobs in agriculture, which will be the biggest employer of the future, forestry and fisheries. It would also mean reinvestment in the local caring economy, education, health, social services. I was once a psychologist in the public health system when we still had local boards of health prior to the health authority model. And I think personally that we need to go back to localized everything, including healthcare. Because under the health authority model, our service is worse and costs continue to climb. Relocalizing economies is the change that Greens believe must be the focus of the future. And Greens are not alone in promoting this completely different economic model as a way off our current path of environmental and social destruction. I'm speaking at the Degrowth Conference in Vancouver at the end of the month. And in Britain, there's a movement called the Red Tory Movement, which has as its central focus the empowering of local communities. It's hard to predict where the change will occur, but more and more people are betting on the local government level. It's no accident that Richard Branson of Virgin Records is offering financial incentives and targeting the large cities of the world to become leaders in addressing climate change, completely bypassing the national and state level. I think the topic of your conference confirms that in BC, that change will come at the local government level. And I encourage you to focus your discussions and deliberations on how you can be a sustainable region, a leader in British Columbia. And while it's not a direct parallel to the Kootenay region, when Portland was faced with this recession and they realized that it was going to impact a lot of their small businesses, They went and they got Denmark's bestest wind turbine company to open a plant in Portland so that their machinists and their metal workers and their electricians and their engineers and their service providers could feed into that industry and maintain their profitability. And I think that's the kind of planning and forward thinking that the Kootenays as a region could employ. In the Victoria region, we have some of that happening at the local government level. Saanich has just announced their green plan, a very forward-moving plan that will get them to their greenhouse gas reduction targets. And Victoria has bought a bunch of motels that were in foreclosure to provide subsidized supportive housing. And at the moment, the local food movement is mushrooming throughout the province. And we see communities challenging the government around their policies that favor industrial factory farming and the import of food over local production. All of these are hopeful signs, and I think few of us comprehend the magnitude of the task that we face, and the extent to which our lives will improve as we recapture those local communities. When I heard John talk about all of those industries and businesses that the Duke Boers had in this region prior to our current economic model, it's that kind of interdependency that we need to create to get that lighter footprint that you talk about. At the moment, I believe that the federal and provincial governments are an impediment to the kind of change that we need to make. And even though you're constrained somewhat at the local level by the narrowness of your mandate, I do believe that you will be the place that the change occurs. In the latest issue of the London Review of Books, there's a review of a book called Ill Fares the Land, a book, sorry about that, I'm just about at the end. A book that is written by a fellow by the name of Tony Judd. And he's quoted as saying, "We need to rediscover a language of dissent. It can't be an economic language, since part of the problem is that we have for too long spoken about politics in an economic language, where everything has been about growth, efficiency, productivity, and wealth, and not enough has been about collective ideals around which we can gather. That is what faces us all, you at the local government level and we as a political party, to recreate that sense of collective ideals around which we can gather." Thank you very much.